This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. Before taking any action based on the information provided on this channel, it is recommended that you seek the advice of a professional licensed financial advisor.
Let's do this.
All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody, where we do technical analysis quickly. So let's jump right into the chart so we can stay true to our name. This is what I'm talking about by a wedge within a wedge within a wedge within a wedge. It wasn't just clickbait. What you have going on here is this is an upward ascending, and it's building pressure here. You can see that happening, right? And with that, you're going to have a breakdown, which it looks like it's starting right now. This breakdown is going to take us to the purple line, which is going to break down out of the purple line, which is going to take us to the blue, break down out of the blue, which will take us to the yellow, and break down out of the yellow. Each new pattern that we're creating here is a pattern of pressure, and it's just becoming more and more and more finite. Then when you go look at a busier chart, where you can see more than just the wedges, you got the Ichimoku cloud here, the green and the red, the Tekken and the Kijin, and you start looking at some of the other factors, you can see that they also corroborate the story of the pressure building and the fact that we're going to be looking at a retracement coming in. Most notably here, we've got the red line coming up, and the green line's kind of been zigzagging because of all this bullish activity here. But this is a measurement tool. I just created this yellow line to measure where we were compared to in the past. So we are actually further apart now than we were back here, and this pulled all of this in. So, I mean, we're fighting this exact same pressure, well, actually more pressure, because we now have these extra wedges that are showing us that. But we're fighting this pressure as well as this added wedge pressure to come back down. So even though, zoom in more here so you can see it. Actually, I'll just bold this out. I changed the Kijin here to be bolder. So you can see this little flick up that took place on the last candle. And this is just showing that it's bullish in relation to this. But if you compare the height here, this was closer together than we are now. And it's subtle, it's little, but that's all I'm saying here is that with each candle, this space between the Tekken and the Kijin is growing. And that space, as you know, ends up resulting in these candles coming down further into the mouth. If you jump down to the 4-hour time frame, you can see the space here, again, measured by the yellow line, is wider than it was back here by a lot. And it pulled these candles down in here. So what I'm thinking is that all this activity that we're seeing here, this is just superficial. This is people refusing to acknowledge the fact that we're inevitably coming down. And it might just be big money setting up, a bull trap, and now it's caught all this extra money from the retail investor before it drops the bottom out and we start dropping through these wedges. That's one possible scenario. Now, I don't get into looking at wallets and seeing which whale bought or sold or whatever. There are lots of channels that cover that stuff. That's not what I do here. This is just strictly technical analysis. So I'm not sure as to the reasons behind what I'm looking at. But what I'm looking at is still telling me that we are bearish in the short term, and I would even say midterm. I mean, long term, crypto and Bitcoin is a phenomenal asset. So, I mean, even if you bought in it right now, in 10 years from now, you wouldn't regret it. But more on the short term, daily trading, I think you'd be remiss to be putting in huge long positions at this point. Zooming out to the daily and the RSI, you can see these circles here. These are the 4 hits. And as you know, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 breakout. And the breakout is just stalling. I mean, that's all this is. It is just not wanting to die. It's refusing. And there are other times that this has happened. I mean, back here, and arguably even all of this, but definitely up here. And those correspond with the price charts here. So we had this ascending channel here. And when it started to do this, although in this particular case here, this consolidation was coming down. whereas this consolidation that we're currently in is going up. But it's still consolidation. It's just dragging its ass pretty much. You've got the same thing happening here, and then there was a big move up before it came crashing down. So we might be experiencing something like that. I mean, because this was coming down and we had the big move up, you know, we technically could do the opposite. I just don't see that happening with all these wedges. And the last thing I'm going to show you right now is on the 1 hour. The black cloud in the back is how I draw my Bollinger Bands, but essentially the band is on the outside. So the cloud is just incorporates the area between the outer and the inner band. Well, you can see here, especially when I do this, just how far outside the Bollinger Band this 1 hour candle went. I mean, I often refer to it as disrespecting the Bollinger Band, and this was a straight slap in the face in front of his wife. So there's going to be a correction here, and this will come down. This is what I call a 1 hour reset. It's going to come down, hit the other side of the Bollinger Band. And what that's going to do is break us out of the smallest of the 4 wedges. That will end the purple wedge. Then it will work its way down to the white. If I zoom out to the 4 hour, you can see, even though this kicked up here on the Kijun moved up closer to the Tekken, this is still going to come down to the tip of the Kijun and then past. We'll know more at that point because we'll know by then what the Tekken and the Kijun are telling us. You know, as you jump up these time frames, here's the 5 hour. This is really telling. This came up a tiny bit here on the Kijun, but a lot on the Tekken. This is opening. Now, I've said this before, if you've been watching the channel, when this comes down towards the Tekken, often it can get caught in the Tekken here. And it can't get, I mean, obviously, these are not physical barriers, so this is just an analogy. But it gets caught by this bar and it can't get around it. So it waits for some pressure, and when it shoots out of a Bollinger Band like that, you're going to get that downward pressure that's going to break past this. And it just broke past it, as you can see here. And then now it's going to work its way down to the Kijun on the 5 hour. Now, if we keep going up here, we're probably going to see, you know, somewhat similar things. So here's the 6 hour, same thing. This will be bringing us down to 23,844 if we hit the Kijun. 7 hour, both had a tiny little jot up, but that would be because on the 7 hour, you know, this candle, the body of the candle anyway, is the same as the body of this candle. Keep going. You know, this is bringing us down to similar, 23,868. So 9 hour, 10 hour, 11 hour, 12 hour. Okay, so even here on the 12, this decided to go straight on the Kijun while the Tekken stood up. This is going to bring this down into the Kijun at 23,722. And this is working our way now down to the white line. 16 hour. Okay, what you'll notice here, these are staying close to each other, the Tekken and the Kijun, okay? And they're moving in the same direction. But there's also a lot of space that's being built here between these. And they can't get too far away from the Kijun. But in this case, it would be too far away from the Kijun and the Tekken. Overall, you know, these lines here, the Tekken and the Kijun, they look bullish. But until you look into this space here, as well as incorporating all the other time frames. Because again, you jump up into the 20 hour, very similar, but you hit the daily, and that's where I started the video. You've got this tiny little kick up and a much bigger stand up by the Tekken, building this space between here, applying more pressure to the candle to bring it back down to the Kijun. And if it comes down to the Kijun on the daily, we're talking a time frame or a dollar amount of 22,891. But by then, we'll have so much momentum on the crash, you know, like we do back here, that I think we'll continue down. This will be the end of it, where it hits the yellow and breaks out. And that's when we're going to see our meltdown crash that everybody's been talking about, possibly head down to the 10K range, which is down in here. This is the, I put these numbers in, this is the average drop from an ascending broadening wedge, which would be the yellow wedge. This is from Bukowski's website. And this would be the average drop out of a rising wedge, which is the white. So that'll bring us into here, which is 18,328. And then this is the double top alert, because we had this Adam and Eve forming double top. It just never played out. So that one doesn't really count. And then if you zoom out further, that's when you get into the 10K right here. And I mean, once this target happens, I'm not saying that we're going to go, down out of the yellow and then just straight down to that line. I'm not saying that at all. I think we could come down and hit here, hit these targets, and maybe get some sideways consolidation, maybe even a little, uptick before we come crashing down here, which is similar to what we had in the past. Back here, we came down here, shot over, and came crashing down. And that's quite possible. And if you think about the date, I mean, we're in the middle of August. I don't think we're going to see anything really bullish again until we get to the new year. So this would give us 4 months or more for it to work its way down to these lines, kind of jot up, and come back down to the 10K, and then break out of this downward channel that we've been in since the all-time high. But that's my thoughts for today. I'll check back in if any big activity happens. I mean, who knows? This meltdown could take off, much sooner than anticipated. But like I was saying, that pressure's been building. That's what we've been working towards in this wedge since June. And I think it's going to erupt here pretty quickly. So thanks again for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all my other links down here in the description. And I appreciate you watching. Have a great day, guys.